Good evening and welcome to Grid Live Encore. I'm Ben Schneider, joined as always by Brandon Crossman. A little bit of a different mood tonight with the news that we got a little more than 24 hours ago, and we will get to that here in just a moment. First, as always, want to give a shout out to our Patreon supporters, Colin Deschelle, Mark, Robin, David, and our newest one, Matthew. Thank you so much for supporting us. Your support is what allows us to continue to grow this motorsports media outlet, and as you can see, we're trying to send more members of our team to the track on a more regular basis going forward in 2024. If you like what you see tonight, please consider helping us out, or you can make a one-time donation through Buy Me a Coffee or the Super Chat options. And again, follow us on all of our social media platforms, including right here on YouTube. Help us on our journey to 1,000 subscribers and beyond. Now, before we get into the show tonight, we've got a lot of racing at Bristol to recap, and we will get into that in a few minutes. But first, I want to take a moment to remember somebody who meant so much to the entire NASCAR community. Sherry Pollock passed away yesterday morning at the far too young age of just 44 years old. And Sherry Strong releasing this statement on Instagram: "It is with great sorrow that our hero, Sherry, quietly passed away on the morning of Sunday, September 17th. Although there are no words to express our sadness, we take solace in the fact that Sherry is no longer suffering and has been taken back in the arms of the Lord." As we all know, Sherry lived her life to the fullest as she influenced thousands, if not millions of people through her own personal journey. Her love for her family, catwalk kids who she adored, and her friends will last forever. Please join our family in thanking God for giving us Sherry, as she is such an incredible expression of love that will live on. We will continue her legacy of love and caring for those in need, as she will always be alive in our hearts. And then quoting Psalm 23, verse 4, "Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me, your rod and your staff, they comfort me." Pollock's family requests privacy during this very difficult time. We'll bring Brandon Crossman back in here now. Brandon, it's good to see you. I don't know about you, but I was stunned to get this news yesterday morning, and I suppose in some ways it's not shocking. Sherry dealt with 4 different bouts of cancer over 9 years, but her strength and her resiliency through her battle makes this news still unbelievable.
Yeah, it was heartbreaking to get those tweets, and also from our group chats just Sunday afternoon after church. That was just hard news to see, and shared it with my wife immediately after that. Just kind of those sorts of news reports, they definitely reel you back wherever you're at, reel you back into perspective, and just thankful the Lord gave us someone like Sherry who went through all of that struggle with ovarian cancer, and also the fight, and our prayers are with that family, and just so thankful that she knew the Lord, and thankful that they included those messages there in that official statement as well.
You know, there's nothing more that I can add that hasn't already been said in the last 24 hours. Of course, all the tributes have been pouring in from everybody in the NASCAR community, but there's one in particular I really want to highlight. Jeff Gluck from The Athletic put a piece out that is ahead of the paywall. So normally I would not be doing this. I would not be sharing an excerpt from The Athletic, because I would be encouraging you to go subscribe to The Athletic, and I will still do that because Jeff's voice alone, I think, is worth the price of The Athletic subscription. But it goes without saying he wanted everybody, as many people as possible, to read this, and I'll just read you the first few paragraphs of what he wrote. "When a 35-year-old Sherry Pollock was diagnosed with stage 3 ovarian cancer in 2014, she was given a 30% chance of survival over the next 5 years. Instead, she lived 9 more years. 9. And during nearly a decade of cancer battles, Pollock became an inspiring figure who soaked up every drop of the extra time she fought so hard for. Pollock died early Sunday morning at age 44, with cancer taking a beautiful soul whose presence was a gift to so many. But cancer cannot erase the lessons she gave us unless we fail to remember them, so we can't make the mistake of letting them fade away." And I'm also reminded of another amazing human being and what he had to say through his fight with cancer. I'm talking about Stuart Scott and the speech that he gave during the 2014 ESPYs when he was accepting the Jimmy V Award for perseverance. And he said, "When you die, it does not mean that you lose to cancer. You beat cancer by how you live, why you live, and the manner in which you live." And if that does not perfectly sum up how Sherry Pollock's lived her last 9 years on this earth, I don't know what does. So I would ask you all, as the tributes will undoubtedly continue to come in over this week as we reflect on her life and her charitable work and the amazing work that she did, I ask that we not say that Sherry Pollock's lost her battle with cancer and simply say that we lost Sherry. And it is a devastating, heartbreaking day for all of us. And I've got to be honest, like I was telling you, Brandon, when I first got this news, I was frozen in front of my phone for a couple minutes, simply could not believe that she is no longer with us. And I know she is certainly going to be missed by everybody in the community and all the cancer patients whose lives she touched as well. It's a tremendous, tremendous loss. And we will do our best to continue on in her memory to fight against this horrible disease and remember the time that she had with us. And we will leave it at that. And good to see Adam in the chat room tonight here. Love tribute Ben, hashtag Sherry Strong. Absolutely.
The Lord gives, he takes away. We're glad that he gave us Sherry Pollock for the time we had her.
Absolutely. Amen. With that being said, I'm sure Sherry would want us all to continue on and enjoy the sport that we love so very much. And we had several races to cover this weekend at Bristol, and we will do that right now for you. And we will start with the ARCA Menards Series platform and the combo race with the ARCA Menards Series East and the championship race for the East Series. It was their final round of the year. William Sawalich had a comfortable championship points lead and basically needed to survive the day in order to win the championship over Luke Fenhouse. Fenhouse came in with an outside chance of the title, but as you can see, he had some problems, a couple of right front tires going down and crash damage that eventually took him out and left him in 29th. That's about as low as Sawalich needed to finish. Fenhouse needed to basically go out, win the race, lead the most laps, do all of that in order to have a shot at a championship. Sawalich, meanwhile, did it in style, winning the race, beating Jesse Love there at the end to take a combo race win in both ARCA and the ARCA Menards Series East. Now, he also has 3 top 10 finishes and 6 truck starts this year with Tricon Garage. So we'll bring Brandon back in here now to talk about Sawalich here real quick. Is his ARCA East title a sign of things to come? Or do you see this as he's driving the Joe Gibbs 18, which we know how much of an equipment advantage that is on this series here? Do we need to see more strong performances in a top 3 series before we make that claim about Sawalich going forward?
Yeah, ARCA East, there's a lot that's been said about it. Just the limited amount of schedule time that they have, where some kind of don't even really consider it to be much of a full, as you would call a series championship proper. But with the races they do have, Sawalich was a champion, and that still is an impressive feat, no matter where you are, ARCA East or West or the National Tour. And William Sawalich, there's a lot of eyes on him, and of course that the Joe Gibbs tech does help a lot. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see him move up to trucks, preferably trucks first. Some guys get the jump ahead to Xfinity. You look at Sammy Smith, who hadn't been doing that bad there with Joe Gibbs, but hopefully they'll put him in a truck, and we'll see what he can do from there. But it'll be interesting to see how that water holds, or I'm using the wrong figure of speech there, how that holds once he gets to one of the top 3 series. Do you know the phrase I'm looking for there?
How that holds is fine. How the results hold, maybe?
Yeah, it's something like
the
that.
results hold, if he can.
It doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
Yes, if he can do this in trucks or Xfinity, then I think it's a much different conversation. Now, not to take away from what Sawalich has done here, because he is a champion and he deserves credit for that, and going out and executing, doing what he needed to do to get that job done. But you can't not acknowledge at the same time he certainly has the benefit of some very good team members and equipment behind him to help him get that job done. So as much as this is an achievement, and again, I don't want to take anything away from it, we talked on this show before, the ARCA Menards Series East, I wouldn't exactly call it a clean bill of health at this point. I feel like it's struggled for an identity. It's struggled, although I say that there's 32 cars here on the results sheet. Great to see that turnout here, even though it is a combo race. But I think one of the reasons that we have so many combo races is because the car counts have been so low, the standalone races. And when you have a series that is 8 races long and 4 of them are combo races, it's kind of hard to find your identity in that, I think. So yeah. This is still an achievement, but I don't know that it's necessarily a sign of further success in the top 3 series until we see those similar results in the top 3 series. And to Sawalich's credit, he does already have a few top 10s in the Truck Series under his belt. So he is certainly well on his way on that path to the potential of being a future superstar in this sport. But it's going to take more than an ARCA East Championship driving what I think is objectively the best car in the field in terms of equipment to convince everybody that that might be in his future. So we'll see what happens for Sawalich going forward. He's got some big shoes to fill in that car, and I think he already has with Sammy Smith picking up those East titles as well. And, of course, Ty Gibbs and what he's doing now in the Cup Series. He had a great run in the Cup race as well. We should mention that with the entire Gibbs team. But Ty getting up there, leading some laps, finishing in the top 5. We might be saying that about William Sawalich in several years' time. We'll just have to wait and see how his career develops. But in the meantime, congratulations to him on the East Series title. That is thoroughly deserved.
Absolutely. And I want to touch real quick, Ben, about the ARCA East topic there. You're talking about the car count. I can remember last, maybe spring or summer of last year, you talking about ARCA East at Dover. And our big topic that day was about the ticket prices being a part of the equation as well.
Yeah, I got to say, and that is not one of the combo races, by the way. That is a race that I think, if ARCA is going to go there, I think you got to bring the national tour there. I understand why it's an East combo race. I think in a perfect, or East standalone race, I should say. I think in a perfect world, and that's what it was for many years back in the K&N days. It was an East Series race. But, when you got 15 cars out there and only 10 of them are running at even close to a competitive speed, charging.
And 2 of them are running backwards.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, $30. Sorry, go ahead.
I said Tony Stewart style.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, but $30. Yeah, I mean it's a series I think is hurting in terms of finding that identity. So we'll see what they do with it in a few years. But combo races that we have, I think brought the car counts in, and I'm certainly not opposed to a combo race here and there. I think the East and West combo race at Iowa was a great staple of this division and this level for many years. I'd love seeing the West have their own combo race out in Phoenix to open the year up, but again, that can't be what half of your schedule consists of. I think if you're going to make the East Series something that has an identity on the eastern half of the country here, you need a little bit of a bigger schedule, at least more in line with what the West Series has, and more standalone races, because that's the only combo race for the West Series is that one at Phoenix, whereas the East Series has 4.
Well, Ben, I think you have an admirer in the Twitch chat. Just
I was going to say, I just had a comment pop up here. I'll let that one be. I don't know. Sometimes those codes can be a little spammy there. I'm not going to.
Please don't enter that in, folks. Don't do that.
Yeah,
bad idea.
We will let that go. Probably just a bot. Nothing to be too concerned about. Although I'm glad somebody's watching on Twitch. We do stream on Twitch as well, and LinkedIn and Facebook if you can't join us on YouTube. So if you're ever in that position on one of those platforms, feel free to catch us over there as well. Now, moving on to the Truck Series, Corey Heim picked up another win, but Christian Eckes was a bit of a heartbreaking end for him. It looked like he was the dominating truck of the day, winning the pole and the first 2 stages before being passed for the win, I believe, with only just 5 laps to go here in the closing stages. So, Brandon, either way you slice it, Heim first and then Eckes, or Eckes and Heim, do you see these two as the primary championship favorites here as we only have a few races remaining on the Truck Series calendar?
Yeah, I guess so, but I can't turn my back on Carson Hocevar or Grant Enfinger. I still think it's a 4-way sprint to the finish here. I really don't. I don't think we can call it like that early. I wish I had a schedule in front of me, unfortunately, for the trucks. I know we're Talladega next, but
Talladega and then Homestead and then Phoenix, I believe.
That's it. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Corey Heim is still showing that impressive speed, just able to make runs out of nowhere that he's been showing kind of all year long. Christian Eckes just coming out of the woodwork this year, just popping up with the 3 wins and really showing up with fire here recently. They're both really strong contenders, but I also look at some of the guys behind them as well.
Yeah, well, the 4 you mentioned finished first, second, third, and fourth in the race. So they are certainly, again, we'll get into this here in just a moment. We have the biggest wild card of them all coming up at Talladega Superspeedway, but you could not ask for a better start if you're trying to pick the championship for here. They went out and they maximized their efforts here with these results at Bristol. But let's talk about Eckes a little bit more. Obviously, like I mentioned, very disappointed to miss out on that win after such a dominating day. He's currently 29 points ahead of the cut line right now. Fifth place is held by the defending champion, Zane Smith. Talladega looms as the next race, Brandon. Do you think that missing out on this win could come back to haunt Christian Eckes, especially if he gets caught up in somebody else's mess when we go to Talladega?
Absolutely, this could, because Talladega is treacherous enough already, but for some reason it's super treacherous whenever we bring the trucks out there. You don't know. The trucks are so draft reliant almost everywhere we go. But when you go to Talladega, it's so amplified, and it's going to be a wild race. It always is. It draws the crowd, and he's going to have to have some good speed up front to make sure he stays up front. Otherwise, he's going to get tangled up. Absolutely, and it will happen. It's just, when's it going to happen, and what section of the field, and are you going to be able to avoid it? And most of the time, you don't really get much of a chance to even think about it.
I've always been torn about this time of year, because I feel like if you're going to have a playoff system, if you're going to have a format like this, you should have as much variety in your track types as possible. I was just why I was all for putting the Roval in the playoffs. Let's get a road course in there. And I suppose by that logic, you would say, well, you want to have a super speedway in there because there are drivers who excel at that kind of racing more so than others. But at the same time, just the nature of pack racing can have you, have a great day going, and then you get shuffled back a little bit, and then there's a wreck that happens 5 cars up in front of you going into the turn, and there's nowhere for you to go. That's not your fault, but
yeah,
you're going to end up down in the 20s or 30s, and that's a massive points loss. And then, especially when it was a cutoff race, I'm glad at the very least that Talladega is no longer a cutoff race, because I think that again, that only further amplifies the lottery aspect of this system, which I in my humble opinion, already has a lot of lottery aspects in many respects. But, again, I see both sides of it. I understand wanting to have this track in your postseason, but again, Christian Eckes, he's in a good position right now. I imagine he's not sleeping quite as easily as he might be if he'd been able to close out the deal, or if the race had been, I guess, 5 laps shorter this past Thursday night.
Yeah, that's what makes the playoff trio of races that you get so interesting, because if you don't get the victory, if you're not locked in, you're still very much in danger. And it's almost as if everything you did at Bristol doesn't matter anymore, which it doesn't. if you're in that position when you go to Talladega, it's crazy.
Yeah. All right, we move on now to the Xfinity Series, and Justin Allgaier was the one picking up the win. Poor Daniel Hamrick. 13 second-place finishes in the Xfinity Series now to only 1 win. Kind of unbelievable when you look at it that way, and unfortunately, tires couldn't hold on. Justin Allgaier ended up passing him in the closing laps to take the victory in the Xfinity race on Friday night. Brandon, obviously, we've been talking about John Hunter Nemechek and Austin Hill. If anybody can catch them, that kind of set themselves apart as the top 2. If we had to come up with a big 3, I suppose Allgaier's been that third guy. But do you think he's somebody that, with the momentum from this win especially, can take the fight to John Hunter Nemechek and Austin Hill to bring home another championship for junior motorsports?
I think he can. I think there's a lot of good things going towards Justin Allgaier in that 7 team, and if he could pull this off, it would be not just a big moment for junior motorsports, but also Brandt, that team, that sponsorship behind him. I know the owner of that company follows them very close, as sponsors do, but I think even more so with this company here. They've been with Justin for forever, and if he could finally get this done, it would be such a big moment in our sport, and it would further solidify Justin Allgaier as someone you think about in the history of the sport going forward. Certainly a Xfinity regular, but he to be champion, that would take it up to the next notch. I didn't. And you were saying poor Daniel Hamrick. I wouldn't say poor Daniel Hamrick. He just got himself a cup deal for next year with Pollock. That's pretty impressive, and certainly the most qualified guy for the job from the circle of people they could choose from. And it doesn't hurt whenever you got some of that poppy seed bank money and the other sponsors at Circle and the other sponsors that follow him around. You know they're gonna stick with him in that Cup ride. And it's gonna be good to see those sponsors at the Cup level on a more consistent basis as well.
Yeah, well, I'm speaking in terms of the Xfinity Series. I mean, and I tweeted this out.
I know. I'm just toying with you.
Can you imagine if he hadn't? I mean, that would have to be the record, right? If he hadn't pulled off that bump and run to win the championship, he'd be on 14 second-place finishes without a single win. I would think that has to be. I mean, people were talking about Chase Elliott having 8 and tying his father, Bill Elliott, who ironically did the same thing. But I mean, 14 would just be. I mean, I'm glad he got to experience that and then a championship on top of all of it, because I can't imagine how gut-wrenching that must feel, again, hypothetically, if he were still on this run. But 1-13, that ratio is not much better either. So, we'll see. Maybe he can get a win and break through, and, he's in that 10 car now fighting for the owner's championship as well. I'm sure a colleague would love to see him in victory lane before he moves up again to the Cup Series next year. Let's talk about somebody who's a little bit further down the results sheet than we were expecting to see him based on how he was running. But, of course, everybody was making a big deal about Junior's, Dale Earnhardt Jr., that is, his annual return to the Xfinity Series. Although I say that, he's going to be running Homestead in a couple of weeks as well. Yeah, he bumped it up to 2 races this year. Don't let 30th place tell you the entire story, because he was up front on pace, leading laps, and looking like he was at the bare minimum going to be fighting for a top 5 on the back end of a top 5. And then, unfortunately, he had a mechanical issue of some sort. His car literally caught on fire. He had to bring it into the pits, stopped in one of the Toyota pit stalls, had Toyota crew members coming to help get him out. There was a whole burnt in his fire suit when he was doing his interview post-race from the care center. Brandon, everybody loves seeing Dale Jr. back in the Xfinity Series, when we get to see him here. And it's great to see him run so well. But I do want to ask you your thoughts on how you view him running up front here and leading these laps. Does that say more about Dale Jr., that he can come in once a year and look like he never left? Or does that say more about the rest of the Xfinity field, that they let a 48-year-old, soon-to-be 49-year-old, who's been out of the car full-time for 6 years now, come in at one of the most physically demanding tracks in Bristol Motor Speedway and look like he never left and lead a bunch of laps? What is that? Is that more Dale Jr., or is that the quality of the Xfinity field overall?
No, man, I'm leaning on that's more Dale Jr. I think if you're going to go back after not being in the car for a while and you're in your late 40s, Bristol is not the track that you should be choosing, but Dale Jr. does, because for some reason for him, it's coming back to Bristol is like getting back on the bike, and he's just able to excel at it. And I really enjoyed one caller up just a while ago. A gentleman called up with Dave Moody on Speedways on Sirius XM NASCAR Channel 90, and said that he brought his wife. It was her first race, and he was talking about, he made a bet with her, like if Dale Jr. wins, he'll get a Dale Jr. tattoo, and he's always been like a Junior hater. Well, he was sweating bullets there for a while in that race, because I really think so. I think he could have won that race. Bristol, if he was able to keep that momentum and get keep his restarts clean, I think he definitely could have been a factor, top 5 or better. But I think he could have took the checkered. I really think that was his race to lose. Had a really good car there before the fire, and I think it's funny that it's almost like what would you do if Dale Jr. his car was on fire next to your pit and you're a Toyota team, like one of those like what ifs, weird out of the blue what if scenarios, like, oh, that'll never happen. But like the Toyotas came out and pulled him out of the car. Just it's one of those kind of like moments, because like historically it seems like a lot of Junior fans, like when Toyota came into the sport, like, oh, them Toyotas, we don't want them here. But here they are, basically saving him from danger. Had a lot of burn marks on there to show it. I'd really like to see Dale Sr. seeing that and putting a grin on that mustache. I really think he'd be smiling at that. That was a really great job, and I think he could have won the thing.
Yeah, I'm sure he would have been. And Jeffrey as well. You see him down there in 32nd. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention him because he also had a very strong run going in that Alpha Prime car. And unfortunately, he had a flat tire and some damage take him out of contention there. But was getting more out of that car than I think most people would have expected him to be able to do at a track like Bristol. So a solid run for him, unfortunately, that he couldn't draw to a close. But I'll tell you this about Dale Earnhardt Jr. I found a tweet from several years ago because one of the few things that he and Jeff Gordon never did in the sport was run a Truck Series race. And we were at Bristol this weekend. I couldn't help but think, that was where Jimmy Johnson made his one Truck Series start. He talked about wanting to get behind the wheel of a truck at Martinsville and bring Jeff Gordon with him. And then he tweeted out this weekend as well, that he had folks like Jeff Gordon, Jeff Burton text him up, congratulating him on a great run and trying to bring some other former drivers out to do this once a year. And I'm thinking to myself, we always talked about the Truck Series is like the perfect veterans tour, right? So why not check that off your bucket list? Go run a truck in Martinsville Speedway and be able to say you did that.
I'd certainly like to see it. I hope he does. It would probably be with Spire, just to guess. It'd probably be in the 7 truck. But yeah, that'd be fun to see too.
Yeah. Well, and again, I don't know how much longer he's going to do this. I know there have been some rumors that, this might be his last year or next year might be his last year, but I think the way he ran this weekend, he can do this for another 5, maybe even 10 years for all I care. Great to see him back out there and great to see him running so well and so competitively. Unfortunate that his run came to an early end. Hopefully he can run well at Homestead in a couple weeks and make up for that there. But great to see Dale Jr. back out on the track in the Xfinity Series a couple times a year, as we've come accustomed to over the last, 6 years now that he's been out of the Cup Series full time. So great to see him have such a good run.
Absolutely. Looking forward to Miami, and maybe this will get some of the buzz around him enough to where I'll do it again. We'll get one more year, maybe. Get to 50. Come on, just to 50.
There you go. All right. Well, might be the perfect segue, Brandon. I think this might be your one shining moment, but I'll ask you anyway. Yeah. What is the one thing that stood out to you from this weekend from the series that we cover?
Well, there you go. I guess I just had an extended one shining moment. I don't know how I could have chose anything else. Staying with the Xfinity and trucks, man, what a show. And it's a shame it was cut dry because I really think he was on the way to win. I've said enough about it. Dale Jr., one shining moment.
I want to give a call to Lane Rakes. I know we've given him a shout out on this show throughout this year and the Truck Series success that he's had in his limited opportunities. It was just announced today that he will be driving the number 11 car. Perhaps I should say the flagship number 11 car for Colleague Racing, reference to the Encore show a couple of years ago, or a couple of years ago. My goodness, a couple of weeks ago. When Brandon and I had that discussion.
You're debating the flagship. Yeah.
Yes. But regardless, great opportunity for Lane Riggs there, and hopefully he makes the most of it, just as I think Derek Kraus has done for Colleague Racing in his limited starts that he's gotten. That's my one shining moment because I think Lane Riggs certainly is deserving of an opportunity like that, and I'm excited to see how he will do later this season for Colleague Racing. And that is going to do it for us here tonight. Please be sure to subscribe to the Grid Network right here on YouTube and follow us on all of our social media platforms, X, that's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, LinkedIn, Threads, and most importantly, right here on YouTube. Join us on our journey to 1,000 subscribers and beyond. Again, if you really like what you saw tonight, you can take a few minutes after our show and consider joining our Patreon. Join Colin Deschelle, Mark, Robin, David, and Matthew in investing in Grid Network to help keep us on the air throughout 2023 and beyond. And as you can see, our long-term goal of $500 per month will allow us to begin attending races on site on a more regular basis, expanding our coverage for you, the viewers. Or if you'd rather make a one-time donation, you can visit the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description box below as well. You can buy a coffee for your favorite on-air talent here at Grid Network, not just on the Encore show, but all of our programming. And any amount will help us continue to grow our motorsports media outlet. And finally, we also have Super Chats now enabled through our YouTube live streams, so you can choose that avenue if you want to donate as well. Now, looking ahead at our upcoming schedule, Kobe and Matt will be back on Wednesday night with Grid Tonight. And as always, you can stay tuned for more Grid Live coverage this upcoming weekend. Brandon, any final thoughts before we sign off this evening?
Well, time to head to the Walmart park. I mean, Texas Motor Speedway this weekend. Looking forward to it, actually. I always seem to have hope for this track for some reason, although I know the stigma around it. Each time we come back, I know they messed it up from what I liked from the original layout of it, but each year I come back with like, maybe this will be the year where I go, Texas was actually kind of interesting. Maybe we'll see.
I will tell you this, at least on the Cup side of things, it would be hard to top, or I guess maybe go below what we had last year. That was an absolute mess that we should never speak of again, as was the All-Star race. Hopefully, the bar has been set so low that we will cross it by default or pass over it by default. But then again, this is Texas, so you never know what you're going to get. Hopefully, the most important thing, everybody stays safe and we can walk out of there at least having seen a solid race, and we'll see what happens as we continue on here with these playoff fights as well. For Brandon Crossman and Ben Schneider, I'm Ben Schneider. Thank you so much, as always, for watching. Have a wonderful week. And again, our thoughts and prayers are with Sherry Pollock's family.
Thank you for watching us right here on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe and check out some of our other videos, including Life on the Grid, where we interview folks from the motorsports industry. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.